We can think of leadership as really involving two critical tasks. One of the critical tasks is to make decisions. Leaders have to make decisions about where to go, and they have to make decisions about how to get there. The other critical task for leaders is to implement those decisions. Where they want to go is something that we might think of as the vision of the organization, and we'll have more to say about that later. But for the moment, let's just think about the fact that even setting the target, setting the direction, identifying the vision is actually a decision that has to be made as well. So for leaders, there are really two things they need to do. They need to make decisions, and they need to implement those decisions. Turns out that one of the biggest levers that leaders have is inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is about getting other people involved in a leader's decision making. We can think about this as participation, opening up the channels of communication, asking other people to get involved in the decisions that leaders have to make. This immediately offers two kinds of benefits. There are information benefits and there are motivation benefits. Information benefits are what I think of as the head of effective leadership. Motivation benefits are what I think of as the heart of effective leadership. And remember, inclusiveness doesn't need to be everyone. So if you want to be inclusive, that doesn't mean you have to ask everyone in your organization to get involved. One of the best ways of being inclusive, one of the most manageable ways of being inclusive, is what's known as representative inclusiveness. Representative inclusiveness means getting a subset of individuals involved, people who reflect or represent everyone in a way that allows the leader to get the benefits of talking to everyone without necessarily having to talk to everyone. So the decision-making benefits for inclusiveness are that managers often overestimate their ability to make high-quality decisions without the input of others, or in some cases, perhaps they fear it is their job to make these decisions without help. In other words, to ask others for assistance might be perceived as a sign of weakness. But inclusiveness provides us more information, and more information means better decisions. Let's do a quick demonstration to show why this is true. This is a little task that I call counting the F's. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very short sentence. I'm going to ask you to read the sentence and count in the sentence the number of occurrences of the letter F. Ready? Go. Okay, how many F's did you find in that sentence? It turns out that when we do this with large groups of people, the numbers are pretty broad. They vary from people who find 2 F's all the way up to people who find 6 F's and everything in between. So for example, most people when they read this sentence immediately notice the 2 F's in the 2 words finished files. Some people also manage to detect that there is an F buried in the word scientific, and the people who are really on the ball may actually notice that there are 3 F's that are cleverly disguised in the words of. Yes, so altogether there are 6 F's in this sentence. But it turns out that when you ask people to read this sentence and look for the F's, most people can't find 6 F's. Now, why is this important? It's important because it demonstrates a very important principle, and that principle is that everyone sees the world a little bit differently. We all bring to the table our own unique constellation of experience, expertise, and perspective. And that means we can all look at the same thing, in this case a sentence, and see very different things. Turns out those differences are a very important organizational resource. In fact, they are a critical organizational resource, because what that means is when somebody is making a decision, if they can tap in to other people's experience and expertise and perspective, they can make a much better decision than they would have been able to make on their own. Inclusiveness is simply about asking others to participate in the decision-making process. And that provides a leader the opportunity to make more informed decisions, because that leader is going to have more information from more perspectives, and that means more creativity, and that means better decisions at the end of the day. Beyond those informational benefits, though, there are also motivational benefits and some informational benefits as well at the level of implementation. We need to keep in mind that the quality of a decision is always limited by your ability to implement. No matter how good a decision you make, if the targets of implementation will not implement your decision, you might as well have not made a decision at all, because your decision is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to achieve the goal that you set out to achieve. And remember that the success of implementation is always hostage to the enthusiasm and knowledge of the implementers. Implementers need to know what to do. That's obviously a head issue, an information issue. but the implementers also have to want to do it. That's a motivational issue. So inclusiveness increases implementers' understanding. When we get them involved in a decision, they're more likely to understand what the goal is, they're more likely to understand why a decision has been made, and they're more likely to understand their role and how to implement that decision successfully. But simply beyond those informational benefits are the motivational benefits of getting people involved in decision making. Ownership via participation in the decision-making process breeds enthusiasm and supportive implementers at implementation, particularly when we allow the implementers to shape a decision. That is, we invite people in and ask them to participate in the decision-making process, then that decision is more likely to reflect their concerns, and they are more likely to support that decision during the implementation process.